put all over her drawing. The blog seems mostly abandoned, with only 6 posts, all within the month of February of 2016. The first 3 are game
Much later than first planned.
while the last 3 are advertised.
I've just been trying to sleep as much as I can until I get some money for some food.
Not long ago, the website looked different with an
Anyway,
advertisement
today I'm
for
just
game
gonna
as
write
holes
unless
across the front
someone
of the page
comments.
and the words games made with love just to the left. Digital Homicide has a strange relationship with Steam Greenlight. When one of their games inevitably fails, they simply put it back onto Greenlight, looking to garner enough votes the second or third or 7th time around, sometimes using dummy publishers to get around quality control. So who is Digital Homicide? The company is comprised of 2 people, a pair of brothers named James and Robert Ramey. Very little is known about them, and only the latter has divulged any information about themselves. This raises many questions, but there's one that stands out. How are 2 brothers managing to create dozens of games in the span of only a few years? To understand this, one must be familiar with the concept of asset flipping. All Digital Homicide games are created on the same engine, Unity. There are plenty of good and even great games made on the Unity engine, such as Kerbal Space Program, Ori and the Blind Forest, Superhot, and Hearthstone. However, it is notoriously easy to create rudimentary games with it. Many burgeoning game designers have begun using Unity to try their hand at game development, while others use it to create strange and absurdist experiences and release them for free.
I hear story of friend is friend shadow versus ground magnets with touch.
Just as often, however, it's abused by independent developers to quickly make a terrible game, slap a price tag on it, and push it out the door to turn a profit. To increase the odds of someone buying the game at face value, these developers often will rely on buying pre-made game assets for cheap, something expedited by the prolificacy of assets made specifically for Unity. This practice has grounds in legitimate game development, where indie developers purchase assets such as 3D models to save both time and money, so that other aspects of the game can receive attention. The intention is to build upon these assets and use them as a framework, but sometimes a lazy or cheap developer will buy a myriad of assets and plunk those onto basic coding, then call it complete, a process known as asset flipping. Buying game assets works similarly to buying a font. Rather than purchasing a physical object, the buyer gains unlimited rights to utilize that particular asset, meaning that this process is 100% legal, however shady it may be. By asset flipping, Digital Homicide Studios can churn out games at an unprecedented rate, games that may seem competent on the surface but prove to be vapid and hollow. Despite how egregious this practice is, James and Robert Ramey would have remained an obscure element of Steam's underbelly, were it not for a few bewildering and vitriolic actions against one of the internet's more controversial figures, Jim Sterling, the online persona of a game critic named James Stanton. There's a significant subset of content creators on YouTube who enjoy making videos about terrible games, and Jim Sterling is one of them. Among the many topics he covers in gaming, he has a series called Squirty Plays, a gag based on the popular Let's Play videos. In these, he chooses games that, to him, seem obviously squirted on the scene to make some quick casual gamers who don't know any better, and plays them without researching them beforehand as a first impression. On November 1st of 2014, Sterling chose to feature The Slaughtering Grounds, which Digital Homicide had released on the Steam the night prior under the guise of another studio, Imminent Rising. Predictably, the game was low quality, but Sterling seemed more confused than disgusted during the 10.5-minute long video as he scrambled about through the pre-purchased assets in an attempt to find ammunition for his poorly stocked weapons.
Alright, what's this? Oh, we need a new gun. I've got nothing.
Enraged by the negative reception, James and Robert Ramey took to YouTube themselves in an attempt to strike back at this slight. They uploaded Jim Sterling's video onto their own channel as part of what they claimed was a new series entitled Reviewing the Reviewer. This video had text overlaid on top of it, criticizing Jim Sterling and the video. The first slide of text reads, and I quote, Hello, this is Jim Sterling, and I am a fucking idiot. Don't believe me? Well, just watch this piece of shit review I've made. The text continues to lambaste Jim Sterling throughout the rest of the video, literally insulting his intelligence and the quality of his content, calling it useless shit and other vulgar pejoratives. They also blame Sterling for not providing an adequate review. Jim Sterling, possibly recognizing an opportunity to draw in new viewers as well as to archive the video, re-uploaded the Ramin Brothers' re-upload, but instead replaced the original audio with unscripted reactions to the text. Here, he retorts that the Squirty Plays series isn't a review series, but rather about first impressions, though he dismisses most other points as the actions of a crazy developer.
Jim fucking Sterling, and I deliver accurate reviews. Not a review. I told you I would tell you the ones that points work, and you can depend on me providing you with all useless shit reviews. And
In a bit of recursion that would make Christopher Nolan blush, the Ramin brothers uploaded a response to Sterling's response, though this time there was no video. Instead, they only used the audio from Sterling's response and overlaid white text on a black background, again riddled with poor grammar. In this slideshow of text, they claim that by purchasing pre-made assets, they are assisting in the production of further games and, thus, the cycle of game development. This misunderstanding of economics is forgivable, but their other claim is much bolder. In a strange confusion of fair use law, they ask, how is it okay to commit 60 frames of copyright infringement a second for 40 minutes and then get paid for it, referring to the use of game footage? They then accuse Jim Sterling of contributing to the practice of, quote, unfair reviews, and thus affecting the livelihood of many people with no risk or cost to yourself. This video was followed with something all YouTube content creators dread, a takedown notice on the original Squirty Plays video by the Ramin brothers. Takedown requests on YouTube are almost unanimously respected by the administration, and anybody can issue a takedown request on any video for any reason. When a takedown goes into effect, the video is removed from viewing by the general audience for 4 weeks. The onus on the requester to prove that some element of the video is indeed illegal. Often, certain companies with a vested interest in keeping a certain video offline will issue a takedown request that they can't follow up to reduce viewership of it and to punish the content creator by cutting into their revenue. Digital Homicide, however, backed up its takedown request to the media, albeit with more poor grammar, stating that, quote, there are countless negative review videos posted, including multiple Sterling videos, and only one in particular with a DMCA filed on it. The reason is we have a legitimate claim we can prove a violation of our copyright, fair use is not blanket immunity, and damages. They went on to say that we believe the unbiased perspective of a court will agree there has been a violation of our copyright, and for this reason, we will be pursuing an attorney and proceeding with our complaint. Despite these confident claims, it seems that no further action was taken, and the video returned to Sterling's channel 4 weeks later. This scenario may sound weird to some gamers. This is because something extremely similar happened almost exactly a year ago to another content creator who goes by Total Biscuit when he created a review for the now infamous indie game Day One Gary's Incident. Jim Sterling, however, was in a slightly different position. Rather than receiving advertising revenue on any of his videos, he receives all of his money from a site named Patreon, where people may donate money to content creators on a monthly basis to support them. This means, beyond the need to continue supplying content to viewers, there is no direct financial need to keep his videos online, and, in fact, it's likely that the controversy was generating further income for him. So, rather than fighting the takedown of his video, he began making further videos, not only on the general topic of media silencing from indie developers, but about the specific business practices of the Ramin brothers themselves, all while the original Squirty Plays video sat the takedown message plastered on it. He quickly outed them as not imminent uprising, but instead the Digital Homicide Development Studio, accused them of asset floating rather than true game development, then used that as a springboard to talk about the practice in general. In a surprising move, Robert Ramin decided that the actions taken by Digital Homicide Studios was not enough, and he challenged Jim Sterling to what he called a free-form debate to set the record straight once and for all. In early July of 2015, this meeting indeed did occur over Skype and was recorded. The perplexing discussion lasted almost an hour and 40 minutes with no mediator. It was in this recording that the audience to this 8-month argument got to hear the voice of Robert Ramin for the first time. Here, he claims to be a 35-year-old man with 3 children, and that digital homicide has proven to be a successful business venture.
I was expecting to not hear the voice of an adult, so this makes me feel a little bit better about things.
Oh yeah, I have 3 kids. So I'm 35. I'm definitely an adult.
The discussion in its entirety is a surreal experience. It begins somewhat cordially, where both parties acknowledge that they are participating in a one-sided conversation and are reluctantly thankful that they can now speak to one another. At about 2.5 minutes, however, things start.
Yeah. I want to listen to that. And
This to take a strange turn, and Robert Ramin's true intentions begin to manifest. He begins talking over Jim Sterling, disallowing him from responding to the accusations leveled at him. Ramin's voice also begins to crack in what sounds like restrained anger.
Let's talk specifically about your nonsense. Just go ahead and start all the way back at the beginning and go ahead and ramble off all your accusations and stuff.
He tells Sterling to point out problems with digital homicide, and Ramin will pick them apart one by one, but continues to cut him off. Ramin quickly turns the conversation in an attempt to attack Sterling's professional credentials and deflect Sterling's arguments into further attacks throughout the conversation.
Which is like, it's your job. It's your job. You telling me that when you were playing that game, you couldn't see the ammo counter 2 inches below the crosshair? I mean, come on. If you're gonna, we're going right back to what we were saying about you saying I'm an incompetent developer. As a game reviewer, you should be a very quality game player.
Ramin seems to become more emboldened as the conversation continues, passively, aggressively, and sometimes ad hominem attacking Sterling more and more.
The sheer geographical chaos that was your menus.
That's what it just goes to show why you're a bad person, man.
You bad person.
Yes, you're terrible. You are terrible.
What becomes abundantly clear midway through the conversation is Robert Ramin's stance on reviewers. He seems to believe that reviewers have a personal responsibility to the developers, and that negative issues should be taken to forums rather than reviews.
You have no financial investment in what you do, yet you affect tons of developers' lives, financially affect them. That is why one day you're going to have enough subscribers, you're going to make enough money on your Patreon thing, and somebody's going to get tired of your shit and they're going to sue you. So I'm not saying we are. I'm saying somebody's going to have the money to do it, and they're going to
it's
win.
them.
Oh, is that what we've evolved into?
Exactly.
This last point is a sore subject for many gamers around Jim Sterling's age due to the game market crash of 1983. Side note, the game market crash of 1983 brought the industry from $3.2 billion to only $100 million in 2 years, which is only 3.1% of where it once was. It is largely blamed on the oversaturation of the market with games and a lack of reliable reviews for gamers to determine the quality of products. Only the market success of the Nintendo Entertainment System was able to bring the industry back. It's also clear from the interview that Sterling's coverage did not positively impact sales, and Ramin makes a point to mention it. Throughout the video, Ramin also claims that Sterling was leveling his community directly at Digital Homicide Studios as a harassment weapon. Jim Sterling maintained a composed attitude through the review and even allowed himself to laugh at some of Ramin's statements. After this outburst, Digital Homicide went silent, and for 8 months they continued to release asset-flipped games on Steam Greenlight through dummy publishers, occasionally getting a spotlight on YouTube channels as examples of terrible games. As of today, Digital Homicide has claimed credit for each of them. But after these 8 months, something happened that is difficult to believe and has made the Ramin brothers synonymous with delusion to awed onlookers. On March 16, 2016, Digital Homicide Studios formally sued Jim Sterling through the Arizona District Court for over $10 million, accusing him of assault, libel, and slander. Without a hint of irony, they claimed in a now deleted post that, quote, "We find the usage of the terms worst game of 2014 contender and absolute failure to describe the entirety of our product while not actually evaluating it in its entirety unfair and unreasonable use of our copyright material." Among the libel accusations, they defend their use of dummy publishers on Steam Greenlight by likening them to pseudonyms, referencing Jim Sterling as a specific example. They also, oddly, cite Sterling's usage of the phrase the Ramin brothers as an attack. They make the bewildering claim that Sterling is attempting to liken them to mafiosos in an attempt to diminish their brand. On top of the $10 million, they're also demanding that apology segments be inserted into each of Jim's videos and on the front of his YouTube page for the next 5 years. Both sides began preparing for legal conflict. Sterling became much quieter about Digital Homicide Studios, while the Ramin brothers attempted to drum up support for their cause by speaking with publications, a somewhat questionable legal tactic. Soon after, Sterling moved for the case to be dismissed, and the court granted it. Though today it seems that the Ramin brothers have an opportunity to still take this case to court, it's uncertain that they have the funds to do so. They've set up a GoFundMe page, a place where people can donate to a particular cause or person, but have only managed to raise $425 of what is presumably other people's money for legal costs. As it stands, it seems that the dust is beginning to settle. As for the future of Digital Homicide Studios, it's difficult to say. Now that they have so many assets bought, it would be easy to continue churning out cheap games, but with their name tarnished by this out-of-control Streisand effect, it may not even be worth the effort. For now, they seem to be in limbo. There are many people who hope that that is where they will stay.
What is that?
On August 8, 2016, I uploaded my first video on Digital Homicide Studios, an independent game developer who had become known for their dubious business practices. They first entered a wider public consciousness after game critic and video producer Jim Sterling exposed their pattern of buying pre-made assets and using basic Unity code to churn out games, a process Jim Sterling named asset flipping. Despite their litany of poor games and re-releases, which consisted largely of existing games with slightly altered visuals, they were able to avoid Steam's quality control by hiding behind multiple different company names. Enraged at the negative exposure Jim Sterling was giving them, the two developers behind Digital Homicide Studios, James and Robert Romine, began openly attacking Sterling through videos, which he invited.
Today it goes on and on like this. They do the whole thing, there we are.
This eventually culminated in a $10,761,000 lawsuit, which was faltering at the time my video was released. I expressed a hope that this would lead to an end of the Romine brothers' bizarre behavior, but instead, it only intensified. For some time, James and Robert Romine had been in battle not only with Jim Sterling, but with negative commenters and Steam forum posters, especially after Digital Homicide Studios had been featured by Jim. They would typically either respond vitriolically or, more commonly, by deleting or locking the thread in question. In response, a Steam group was created called Digital Homicides, Proof Games, which dedicated themselves to identifying poor games on Steam. Their description reads in part, quote, Have you ever been banned or censored by a homicidal developer? Are you tired of a game that isn't worth its assets? If so, Digital Homicides is the group for you. Digital Homicides is a dedicated consumer advocacy group and censorship safe haven. Unquote. Beyond this group, online gaming publications and YouTubers have begun covering the actions of Digital Homicide Studios. By this point, Digital Homicide had been experiencing backlash for well over a year. Fed up with the prevalence of detractors and emboldened by his rudimentary legal skills, James Remine filed a new lawsuit against 100 individual Steam users on September 12, 2016, for a total of approximately $18 million. This new lawsuit began even before the one against Jim Sterling had concluded, and it also lacked any sort of legal counsel. James had scoured the internet for writings made by these users, pulling from Steam forums, Reddit threads, and Tumblr posts, compiling them into a single lengthy document to present before the court, accusing them of numerous slights such as stalking and harassment. The document spanned 123 pages. James requested that the court subpoena Valve for the personal information of these users. The presiding judge conceded this to James and submitted the subpoena, but Valve did not take this kindly. Rather than acquiescing, Valve contested the order, which would require further action from James. But Valve's response would go beyond the court. They also removed all of Digital Homicide's games from their storefront less than a week after the subpoena, announcing unequivocally in a statement to TechRaptor that this was in response to the lawsuit against their customers on Steam. They even went so far as to announce this in the recent news section of some of Digital Homicide's games for those who owned them. Mysteriously, around this time, those people who had bought Digital Homicide's games also found that the entire Digital Homicide catalog had been added to their Steam games library. After this, James requested a dismissal of his suit against the 100 Steam users in an effort to recover his court fees, which was inevitably granted. TechRaptor requested a few words from James Remine, and what they received was perhaps more than they were expecting. James's replies seemed to lack any comprehension of the criticism leveled against him and were written in somewhat questionable English. He stated that, quote, "It is important thing to note, Digital Homicide didn't file a dismissal or a case. The company had pretty much nothing to do with the case other than some evidence, which was why we were surprised by the result." Unquote. This statement is technically correct, as James was suing as an individual and not as the company Digital Homicide Studios. He also suggested himself as a martyr, saying that we may have been painted in a negative customer light by gaming media. Truthfully, we've been fighting for lower prices and a more open market, which to me is the most important thing for consumers. He also attacked Valve for their lack of moderation, likening the situation to, quote, "a mall charging you rent for a shop and mall security staying at the donut shop all day while you get mobbed and looted." Against other developers leaving critical reviews, he stated, quote, "This would be like the next shop over in the mall coming next door and posting signs on my business with false information on them. How is that logically allowable?" Perhaps of greater interest was his statement about the fate of his company. Quote, "As far as Digital Homicide, it's destroyed. It's been stomped into the ground from 1,000 directions and use is discontinued. I'm going back into the workforce and watching what's really going on." Of his reaction to negative comments, he said, "We weren't some evil censoring dudes. If someone didn't like the game, they could leave a bad review and refund. No hard feelings here at all. The real problem, was recurring returning attackers for, in some cases, 20 months." Unquote. But even as Digital Homicide Studios was dissolved and the subpoena was dropped, James Remine would redouble his efforts into his last remaining lawsuit. Despite these setbacks, the suit against Jim Sterling was still trundling on. Of note was an egregious mathematical error where James incorrectly added his numbers so that his written total was $800,000 less than the actual sum. When presented to a judge, the case was found to be a woefully inadequate construction. But instead of dismissing it entirely, the judge granted James Remine the opportunity to amend the wording so that it would align with legal standards. Taking some of the recommendations of the judge, James indeed changed certain elements of the document, but he also added one change of his own. Instead of $10.5 million, he was now asking for $12,550,000. But his edits proved not to be enough. The lawsuit was partially dismissed again on January 13th of 2017 for one reason in particular. James Remine was suing as an individual for damages to a company. This left James with two options. He could either sue as Digital Homicide Studios or amend the lawsuit to show the damages to his person rather than the company. The former option, however, came with an important caveat. A company must be represented in court by a state-approved lawyer, but for reasons then unknown, James would not sue as Digital Homicide Studios, and so he set about amending the lawsuit a second time. He returned soon after with the documents, but if Jim Sterling is to be believed, this amended writing was even more nonsensical than the first two iterations.
My lawyer informed me that the level of distress referenced is on par with stealing somebody's child and pretending the child has been killed. That's the level.
What's more, the dollar amount being demanded had inflated again from $12.5 million to $15,326,000. Beyond the money, numerous other things had been added during the lifetime of the suit, including poorly founded allegations of civil conspiracy. After this third document was submitted, James Remine was finally forced to speak to Jim Sterling's lawyer. What exactly transpired is uncertain, but whatever was said to James, it finally convinced him to drop the lawsuit once and for all, but not before James would attempt to commit fraud by amending an agreement without alerting Jim Sterling. This attempt was caught before it was submitted. Jim declined to countersue, and the case was dismissed with prejudice so that it could not be reinitiated later. With this, the game development of Digital Homicide Studios had come to a final halt, and James Remine's game industry efforts were squelched. But while James was busy with the lawsuit, his brother had been at work. Over the course of the lawsuits, Digital Homicide's critics were watching the company carefully. In November of 2016, while the lawsuit against Jim Sterling was receiving its first rewrite, a few particular changes had been made to their website, digitalhomicide.ninja, and were spotted quickly. Video taken of the site by YouTube user Crestfallen Philosopher shows the changes as of November 5th, 2016. The opening page had transformed into large advertisements for giveaways on Steam and itch.io, as well as games for sale on g2a.com. Side note, G2A.com is a digital game reseller that has been criticized for its arguably unethical business practices. Thieves will often use stolen credit cards to buy games and list them on G2A before the card's original owner recognizes the theft and reverses the transaction. People will also buy keys cheaply from poorer regions, then sell them for more on G2A. Scrolling down the page, this person discovered the name for an apparently new company, Loot 2 Games. The links provided here directed people to this new company's Facebook page, offering free game giveaways and sharing gameplay footage. On this page's sidebar, a large number of Digital Homicide's games were listed, offering free Steam keys for them. To go along with these web pages, a YouTube channel was created where dozens of game trailers were uploaded, accompanied by links to G2A.com. There was also gameplay from Digital Homicide games and videos labeled Loot 2 Quick Plays, where a small amount of original gameplay footage was featured for games being advertised. In one instance, for a video of the game Skydrift, the player seems to give up partway through the race, purposefully crashing into walls in a bout of frustration. In In February, around the time the lawsuit against Jim Sterling was ending, LootTube would also create a Twitter account, which somehow managed to quickly acquire over 100,000 followers. This Twitter account began to post links to the trailers on their YouTube channel, games on G2A.com and Penguin.net, and the giveaways on the Digital Homicide website. At the same time, the Digital Homicide Twitter account also began mass posting these links. During this time, there was a drought of YouTube content until February 11th, when a short video was posted of a clip from Predator 2, apparently in support of Digital Homicide Studios.
If we'll stop it, what can be stopped? Okay, what can be?
On April 1st, the Facebook account began to post links to LootTube.net instead of DigitalHomicide.ninja. Soon after, the LootTube Twitter began to do so as well, and the Digital Homicide URL was changed to redirect to LootTube.net. It was also at this time that the YouTube channel was purged of all of its game trailers, dropping the total views on their videos by almost 600,000. But it wasn't until a month later that some clarifying statements about the lawsuit and LootTube games were published. On May 7, 2017, LootTube Games attempted to update the Steam page for their game Not In My Trapper under the name LootTube GameWorks, but after a few reports to Valve, it was swiftly removed again. This event was covered by some of the YouTubers tracking Digital Homicide, and there was a stir over the possibility that the Remind brothers were going active again. More onlookers were made aware of the connection between Digital Homicide and LootTube Games, and they began to spread this awareness. Again, interest grew, though this time it was far smaller. It was enough to rile some to action. On May 20th, 2 people left 1-star reviews for LootTube Games on Facebook. While most other negative reviews had gone without report so far, these 2 triggered a response. The first review partially reads, "Guys, seriously, can you stop with this nonsense? Yes, people have managed to do this before and will manage to continue to asset flip and get away with it. But once you've been caught doing it, there's no way you'll get away with it." LootTube attempted to brush this off by replying, "No idea what you're referring to." However, that same day, another person left a review warning people of the previous practices of Digital Homicide Studios, and this elicited a much stronger response. Over a few longer replies, details about Digital Homicide, LootTube Games, and the court cases were revealed. LootTube Games wasn't created or managed by James, but rather by Robert Remind alone. About Digital Homicide, he claims that, financially speaking, he lost, quote, "more than you'll make in your lifetime," before he emphatically defended the practices of his now defunct game studio. He also revealed more about the lawsuits that James had attempted to perform. He said, quote, "Did you know the case wasn't thrown out? It was voluntarily dismissed by my brother because attorneys threatened to involve me in the case, and I told him, even though I agreed with him, I couldn't put my family through that financial stress, so he dropped the case. If you want to be angry at someone for fleecing people of their hard-earned cash, talk to the used car salesman that runs Steam. Also, it is too late. I reinvested my earnings, so I literally lost around $500,000 in 2+ solid years of my life when my games were removed from Steam, so it isn't an option anymore, which is why you see me handing out free keys trying to generate some ad revenue to supplement my now defunct income." 5 months later, the YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook accounts are still posting an endless stream of links, while the viewership on the YouTube page has stagnated to hundreds instead of thousands of views per month. Perplexingly, the LootTube Twitter page has over 200,000 followers, as does Digital Homicide, yet their posts rarely receive more than 1 like or retweet, suggesting the use of false accounts to bloat their follower counts. The Facebook page is similar, but to a less extreme degree, with approximately 30,000 likes and follows, with some posts clearly being promoted, while others remain mostly barren. With the tension on them waning and their finances decimated, it seems that the Remind brothers are again falling into obscurity, and hopefully, this time, that is where they will stay.
Me too. Yay, old phones. Oh, you cooled down. I got it. Coffee. 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 time, man? 9. Another hour. Oh. Oh, that could be fun. Okay, okay. I like that. But where does that take us? uh, Ooh. Again. Ooh, that's a good bit. Come on. grainy footage. I'm very black. I like it. Get rid of my hands. And silhouette. Ooh. I could definitely do something with this at some point. Okay. Hmm. Oh, yep. Yep. Uh, Oh, that'd be fun. Yeah. Sure. Page, it's not long enough. 60 pages being an hour. No. What if 10 minutes of the page? Depends what you do, you can skip a lot. I'm gonna limit on the pages though. That'd be fun. And that would give me a constraint. So, what's the limit? Too many, I'll drag on. Too few, I'll skip along too quickly. A happy medium. Idea 24. Let's just spend 24 pages on each time. And the real world can be whatever number, but just 24 in the dream. Ooh, what's this million? Ooh, maybe this is significance. Ooh, that would be better. Yo. Right in a stop for a minute. I've been going for like an hour and 20. Except for the beginning, first 20 or so. Just watching some road rage. Very funny. Great content, I know. Oh yeah, keep going. Jesus. What? Why did you stop? Oh, what are you doing? Oof. Mm. 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 Jesus. Excuse me. Righty. Back to some more writing. Music. Where's that gonna go to? No, good. Bouncing. Hmm. Yeah, page limit. Significant number. No, couldn't be that. Could be that though. That would be fun. Because you wouldn't notice. Okay, yeah. Okay, that could work rather than the argument. That did help though. But yeah. Time. 20 minutes. Hey Siri, set a timer for 20 minutes. Thank you. No, we're done. We're done. I wasn't saying anything. Can you put my music back on? I get that. I just want you to go away now. So, thank you. Mm. Oh. Okay. No, that could work. Oh, no. No, that could work. Ooh, yes. Shit. What can I call her though? Call her nothing for the minute. Oh, that'd be great fun. Oh no, yeah, that would work. That would work. Because then she would, yes, she'd come back and she would eventually not want to come back with him. That would, oh, genius. If I do say so myself. That'd be fun though. Oh, very funny. She can see it. I mean, she's not here either. Is it all in my head? Josh shrugs. Thanks, man. You're great help. Oh, what if she can't see him? That would be interesting. Yeah, because she never met him anyway. What would she see? No, she met him a couple of times. Maybe she could do, yeah, these special moments where she sees him. Oof, that would be painful. Fun though. She can't see him. What does she see? Oh, that'd be loads of fun. Holy crap. Okay, gotta take a picture of this. Got more ideas. Oh, did you? No, you didn't. Good. You done good. Okay. At least I've learned how to clean a whiteboard properly. Small concentric circles. Don't just wipe the whole thing, because it'll just smear. Okay, so. Might mean I can't do a constraint. Or that, how does she fit in with the constraint? I might have end up pulled out of it if there is a constraint. Oh, no, that's fine, yeah. Just... Yeah. Object's got to be significant though. So, I'll go out there in a minute. It's an object. So, the 8. Oh, that's a lot. Okay. Oh, no. Oh, no, yeah. That works brilliantly as well. I love that. Wine's back. Where did Lindsay wine back too? Initially. Maybe he limits himself later. Initially, he hasn't limit. Ooh, yeah, that'd be good. It just keeps going because the first one has no limit. Well, maybe this one has no limit either, and he gets pulled out of it. It's super jarring. So he has to set a limit so he doesn't hurt himself from being pulled out of it. No, because they both go on the shirt. Problem there. Could be something to think on. Well, I could win. Could be a good place to leave it for the minute. Let that one simmer in the background. Yeah, that's probably best. Make a note though. Oh, yeah. Bugger. Excuse me. It's a good one. Just worked perfectly every time. I love it. That was it though. Alrighty. 2 hours, it's longer than before. Most of that was just sitting, I get it. But towards the end, I was really having some ideas. I was really diving in. That initial beginning, I was still watching, what was it? Down the Rabbit Hole, it's called, on YouTube. I think I might sub to it. It just follows a story of someone, or I guess in that case, a group. The first one that caught my eye was, what was it called? Was it Oracle OS? Temple OS. Temple OS. About some guy who had. I really don't like saying mental issues because even though that was the case, because he had, his thought processing was different, not bad or wrong, just different, and his parents, I guess, didn't know what to do with him, and he was very reluctant to talk about it and stuff. So I immediately identified related a bit, because my family don't talk to me that much either. Like they don't not talk to me, but if I try and talk to them, they deflect everything, because I don't blame them for anything, but when I try and explain why I'm in the position that I'm in now, it involves talking about things that they've done that have caused me to make choices, and then they say that I'm blaming them for my actions, and I'm like, no, I'm just letting you know how I got here, and then and then we can carry on in honesty and have an honest conversation. Anyway, that's not what my story's about at all so far. Nor am I going to tell you what it's about, because I want to finish it before I do. Timer's going off now. Perfect timing. So I'm going to go play some games. Bye.